Welcome Cancer to your in-depth monthly forecast for December 2024 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. If you order your year 2025 personal horoscope forecast, you also get your life roadmap report 30% off, but also my free gift of your zodiac general, love, Chinese and Indian forecast for the coming year. Please see the link below for more. The personal forecast is totally unique to each person it's produced for and will give you searing insights for the next year. You'll get the rest of 24 free. Now, the moon phases are particularly important for your sign, of course, because she is your ruler. So on the first day, she combines magnificently with the sun in the part of your chart. It's very much to do with practicalities. On the last day, she combines with the sun in the part of your situation that's very much to do with relationships. So we have a black moon. And then in the middle of the month, on the 15th, we have a full moon. That's where the moon and the sun are not on good terms. They're face to face. And it's possible that is going to tease out into the open some issues that are not necessarily entirely obvious as you start this month. But on the screen now, I'm showing the event chart, which shows your moon position applying to the sun as they come into an exact conjunction later on the 1st. But look at the position of Mars. Mars is in your second house. It's going to be in direct motion through to the 6th when it slams on the brakes, but through to the 6th of January, it does give you a chance to be a bit more assertive around your financial situation. So that link between Mars, the moon, the sun, but also if you look at the North Node right at the top of your chart, means that if you come into this month wanting to be businesslike about resources, getting more organized, refining some parts of your situation which could work a little bit better, squeezing more from the money or the resources you've got, there's going to be a lot of fiery energy in order to help you to do that. What's not to like? Well, it's just that Saturn, the planet of limitation, has since March 2003 been in your sister water sign of Pisces, which is about where essentially you want to be more adventurous, pioneering, travel, expand. But of course Saturn is a bit counterintuitive to all those yearnings, which have been stirred by Neptune since 2012. So Mars does broadly T-square the position of both Mercury in Sagittarius and also Jupiter in Gemini, but also it does broadly square up to the new moon. So one of the things you should be more conscious of at the start of this month is if you do want to be more virtuous, don't get knocked off course because somebody else thinks that you should be doing this or that. The 9th house is where people can have quite trenchant opinions, can be a little bit dogmatic, but there also may be some responsibilities and obligations you've got that do pen you in a little bit, because as much as you can be very giving and nurturing, we all do need to do our own things at times, and that's underscored at the start of this month, Cancer, by the position of Venus, which is beautifully aligned for you in your 7th house. Venus absolutely sparkles. And that link between Venus and Uranus could mean that there's going to be some surprise invitations to do something that's a bit different. It could be that some friends want to get together and it's all maybe done quite speedily, but actually it could be something that really gives you quite a lot of uplift. But of course Venus in the 7th house can be about personal relationships. Is there going to be some electricity around someone you encounter? Maybe it's going to be a festive party to do with your work. But with Mercury in a retrograde as this month begins, you might be wondering whether this could actually play out. I think the great thing to do with Venus and Uranus is definitely keep an open mind about what the possibilities are, because I think that gives you the chance to just let events unfold more naturally, which in a way is what Uranus is all about. But there could be somebody that you have had a very good rapport with, but maybe suddenly the energy can change between you, and it can seem a lot more vital and a lot rawer, but also in some ways much more exciting. That is entirely possible. But back to those practicalities, because we do have on the 6th a cazimi. It's an inferior conjunction, so that's Mercury this side of the Sun because of the retrograde. But it does mean the Sun glows up the natural qualities of Mercury. And in House 6, that's very much its Virgoan energy. So you can be one of the best managers of anything. Whether it's managing your budget, a big business, the family. Cancers have a natural gift for that. But there may be another detail that you can change or add or in some ways moderate that just gives you another little added advantage. So watch out for that. But on the 6th, Mars does start that retrograde in the sign of Leo. So if you have been feeling like you would like to be a little bit more speculative with your resources, just saying, it doesn't mean to say you can't keep thinking about things, but whilst it is going through the retrograde, just be conscious that through to the 6th of January, that things won't perhaps happen quite as quickly as you would like. But on the 7th, Neptune ends a very long retrograde, which began on July the 2nd. That's a great amount of weeks. It's 22 weeks. And Neptune may have created some uncertainties, but it also may have, in its retrograde, made you much more conscious of what you did want vis-a-vis the reality of the situation, which Saturn has been reminding you of. But also on the 7th, Venus does make the move from Capricorn into Aquarius. If you have been getting along well with someone, perhaps it's been quite flirtatious, perhaps you've had some kind of clinch, it's possible that it could get very hot as Venus gets into an embrace with Pluto. But also Venus combining with Pluto could be good for your financial situation, because that new moon at the start of the month is asking you, along with that connection to Mars and the North Node, to get proactive about your resources. So I feel that Venus connecting to Pluto in your 8th house is about the long term. If you've yet to write a will, if you're thinking about a legacy, how to work in terms of planning your long-term finances, things like taxation planning and stuff like that, people do need to do it. We do need to think ahead for when things can change. And Venus applying to Pluto, although it's a difficult and sometimes conversation we don't really want to be having, that could be a great time to have it. But that's Venus going into Aquarius, which is the sign of friendship, can also amp up any attraction that may have been building up with someone in your circle. But Venus does go face to face with Mars. If you are someone who's really set yourself a stringent budget for Christmas, you might find that you're really struggling to control the impulse to stay within it, because that opposition there really has written all over it the desire to do your best for the people that really matter to you. But if there is someone that you're finding very, very hard to resist in a more intimate way, it could really get very intense indeed. But on the 15th, we do have a full moon, and that full moon is in a complex and sensitive part of your situation, the 12th house. But it does see on the same day Mercury go direct. If you have been waiting for news on an appointment, something's been delayed, there's been some kind of niggle or some brittleness, that can start to melt away. But the full moon can bring into the open some complexities, particularly at work, I'm afraid. If there has been a situation where there's some gossip or office politics, you can become much more conscious of it towards the end of this year. But there are some potential solutions too, because on the 21st, the Sun moves to join up with the sign of Capricorn, which is your 7th house. That's the winter solstice, ushering in cardinal quadrant 4. And that is going to help you to assert your boundaries. So if someone has been up to no good, with some nefarious stuff, you're going to be much more aware of it, but much more inclined to push back. The 24th, Christmas Eve, however, does see an exact square between Saturn and Jupiter. Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, not at its best, starts this month, of course, in that sign in the opposition to Mercury, broadly squaring up with Saturn. It reaches a peak now. They did come into an exact square on the 19th of August. That's going to be repeated next year on the 15th of June once Jupiter's moved into your sign and Saturn into Aries. If you want to know what that's about, please do check out my Saturn deep dive video. But you can also check out your year 2025 Cancer deep dive video by clicking on the link beneath this video. But if we think about it, Jupiter in the 12th house is to do with sensitivities. Saturn in the 9th house can be to do with higher truths. So there could be something that comes into full view on the 24th that may need to be stared into and faced up to. But the new moon, the second of the two new moons this month, the black moon on the 30th, certainly gives you a great chance to assert the power that comes from you being a cardinal sign. Because even if life sometimes feels that it's against us, and maybe with Pluto in your 7th house, you have experienced some big disappointments and challenges around your relationship sector, but it may have also seen you act in quite an authoritative way at times in terms of setting your boundaries. And the lessons you learnt about that are revisited in a way by the Capricorn new moon at the end of this year, and because Mars and Pluto are inching back towards an exact opposition, which becomes exact on the 3rd of January. So don't underestimate your ability to deal with things. But what I would say is in the 3rd week of this month, just be aware that there's a lot of energy misting around that's hard to read. But by the end of the year, you'll be determined to face up any challenges that are out there. But most of all, let people know exactly what you stand for. And that's a very important thing in life. If we stop worrying about what other people think of us and just say, this is me, if that's not for you, fine. This is me, because you're taking possession of who you are. So this is a month when you can get cracking on some practicalities. You may need to be a little bit patient around them. The financial side of things can start brightly, may slow down a little bit. Just be aware, however, there could be some informational details or a contractual matter which does at times interfere with your peace of mind. But by the end of the month, you're going to be on top form as you prepare yourself to burst into the new year. Have a marvellous Christmas and New Year celebration, Cancer, and do check out that year 2025 deep dive video by clicking on the link below.